friends, it's Miss Seimer. I hope that you're doing so well. I hate that I'm not there with you guys today, but I know that you're going to have an exceptional day and you're going to behave appropriately, and you guys are really going to be good learners and good problem solvers while I'm not there. So what I've done, just in an effort to keep us from losing too much time while I'm gone, I have created some videos for us, and we're going to use these to learn throughout the week. So in this first video, we are actually going to model using double-digit multiplication. So we're going to multiply two numbers that have double digits, or 2 digits in each number, together. And that's what we're going to do this week. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday when we were all together, and we discussed some different ideas and different strategies we had that we already knew that we could apply to solving these multiplication problems. So today, this is going to be our goal. So let's go ahead and read our I can statement together. Read it aloud, just like we normally do. 1, 2, 3, go. I can multiply two two-digit numbers using the area model. Very good. And so this is the standard 4MBT5, and that's what we're going to be working on today. So if you will, make sure that you're looking at this page along with me. We glued it into our notebooks yesterday. At the top, it says modeling double-digit multiplication, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So all the numbers that we're going to look at are going to have a ones place and a tens place. Ones place and a tens place. So here's our first problem. Caleb has 18 packs of Pokemon cards. Each pack contains 34 Pokemon cards. How many Pokemon cards does Caleb have in all? So now we're going to look at this in a realistic model. We're going to look at the whole picture of what it would look like. First of all, before we do that, if you will, underline any key words in this word problem that you see. Please pause the video while you take a minute to do this. Okay, excellent. Hopefully you've underlined the word each. It is the most important word in this part. Also, you could have underlined in all. Well, before, when we've talked about the word in all, we've talked about it meaning that we need to add, right? Well, this time, the word in all is actually going to mean that we need to multiply. And the reason it means we need to multiply is because we have this extra keyword which says each. So Caleb has groups of Pokemon cards, and then there's a certain amount of Pokemon cards in each group or in each pack. That's why we have to multiply. So if we were going to write an equation, we would say I have 18 groups of 34 cards equals, and then we're going to put a variable. Turn and tell your neighbor what the word variable means again. Classity class. Excellent. So the word variable should mean that it is a letter that represents a number. So in this case, I'm going to put the letter C. There are a lot of other variables that you could put, but I'm choosing C for cards. Okay, so now that we have our equation, let's look at what our picture represents. Based on 18 times 34, we should have 18 rows of 34. So I want you to double check and make sure that we have 18 rows and 34 columns. Please pause the video while you do this and then label each side. Excellent. So now that you've counted down the side, this should be 18, and across the top you should have counted 34. Okay, so we have it labeled 18 rows of 34. Well, goodness gracious, this is going to be a lot for us to multiply. How are we going to be able to solve this problem when we don't know our 18 facts? Man, I don't know my 34 facts either. What do you think that we need to do? Please turn and tell your neighbor what you think we need to do, and please pause the video now. Excellent. So hopefully you and your neighbor decided that you guys need to break up this number. Just like we did before, we said that 18 represents this whole group, but I've got to break it down. 34 represents this whole side, but I need to break it down so it's easier to work with. Last time when we broke a number down, we broke it down into how many 10s there were and how many 1s there were. So 34 would break down into 30 plus 4. I've labeled mine a little funky here because I don't really have a lot of room. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to go down here and we say, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I know that this is going to be 4. So I'm going to draw my line down on my paper. Please do this on your paper now too. Okay, now I know this is going to be 4. So I'm going to put my plus sign here. How much is this right here going to be if the whole thing's supposed to be 34? 30, right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cross out this area right here because I don't want to get confused. And I'm going to put the number 30 up here at the top. Okay, so I've got 30 plus 4. Well, I don't know what 18 times 30 is, and I don't know what 18 times 4 is, though I have strategies that I could use to figure it out. I actually want to take some time and break down the number 18. So if I broke down 18 into 10s and 1s, it would break down into 10 and 8. So I'm going to cross out the 18 right there, and I'm going to write a 10 right here. I'm going to count down 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, and I'm going to draw a line all the way across our picture this time. Please go ahead and do this too. Okay, so I have 10 plus, and then this should be 8. Okay, so 10 plus 8 is 18, and 30 plus 4 is 34. So I should still have 18 rows of 34. And I do. This time though, instead of only having 2 boxes like I did at the beginning, I now have 4 boxes. So it's going to change a little bit about what we do. So before we actually do any multiplying, let's go and label each of our rows and columns to show what's in each box. Let me show you what I mean. So this has 10 rows. And in this first box, it represents 30 columns. So I have 10 rows of 30. So I'm going to write that equation. That would be 10. Remember, the multiplication sign means rows of 30. 10 rows of 30. Now I'm going to look at this section over here. Okay, I still have 10 rows if I was going to count all of those. It says 10 over there, so I have 10 rows. 10 rows of 4. So my equation this time is going to be 10 times 4. Okay, now before we go through and we solve any of these, we're going to keep writing our equations down. Now things are a little bit different. In this section, I only have 8 rows, but how many is in each row? 30. So I'm going to say that I have 8 times 30. Please make sure you're writing this down. Okay, and in the last section I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I still have 8 rows, but this time I have 8 rows of 4. Now that I have all of my equations written, I can go through and I can multiply these numbers together to get my product for each box. Okay, so let me show you what we're going to do. 10 times 30. So I know that 1 times 3 is 3, and I'm going to add 1, 2 zeros. 300. Please go ahead and find the product for this, this, and this equation, and pause the video while you do this. Okay, so you should have written 300 right there. 10 times 4 is 40. 8 times 30. 8 times 3 is 24. I'm going to write 24, and then I'm going to add a 0 to the end. Lastly, I have 8 times 4, which is 32. Okay, my last step to figure out how much they are all together is to add. I'm going to add these numbers up over here to the side. 300 plus 240 plus 40 plus 32. I want you to notice that I lined all of my numbers up. I have something in the ones place every time. I have something in the tens place every time. On the test, there are a lot of people that made the mistake of lining up the numbers incorrectly. So be careful about that. Please take a minute and add all these numbers together, and then we'll check our answers and see if they're the same. I got 612. You should have as well. All right, so now that we have that written down, we're actually going to go and draw a small area model of what this looks like. So we're going to have to remember what the top looks like. Okay, I broke 30 down into 30 plus 4, and I broke 18 down into 10 plus 8. Okay, so I have 4 boxes. All these things are things to remember. So let's go down here, and I'm going to break the top section down into 30 plus 4 because it represents 34. And the side over here, because it says 18 rows of 34, I'm going to do 10 plus 8 because this would represent 18 rows of 34. So remember, everywhere I put my plus sign, usually I always draw my lines of my boxes just to show where we are and what groups we're working with. I want you to think, does it make sense that 10 rows of 30 is the biggest box down here? Yes, because it was the biggest box up here. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to do the same thing I did before. 10 rows of 30. Well, that's 10 times 30. 10 times 30, we already figured out, is 300. 10 times 4 is my next one because this represents 10 rows of 4. 10 times 4 is 40. The last one down here represents 8 rows of 30. So there's still 30 across. So I'm going to say 8 times 30, and that equals 240. Okay, and down here I have 8 times 4, which is 32. My last step then is to take all of these partial products, because they're parts of the product, I'm going to add them together. 300 plus 240 plus 40 plus 32. Make sure you line up your numbers. You should add and get the same number that we got last time, 612. Okay, excellent job. Right now, we're going to actually go ahead and do another problem on the other side of your page. One more together, okay? And then you guys are going to try the last one on your own. Okay, so first step is to say, okay, I've got 24. This is my rows. And that's not a 24, it's a 29. I was just trying to make sure you were paying attention. 29 rows of 47. So this is how many are in each row. Okay, so we need to represent this picture. Well, if 29, I have 29 rows, it's going to go over here. And if I have 47 in each row, 47 is going to go up here. So I've got to figure out how I'm going to break down 29. So let's start with that one. 29. Man, there's a lot of ways I could break down 29, but the easiest way to break down 29 would be to say that I have how many tens and how many ones. Okay, so I have 29, which would be 20 is how much my tens are worth, plus 9 ones. And then I'm going to break down 47. If I was going to break down 47, I would say how many tens do I have? How many ones do I have? I have 40 tens plus 7 ones. Just like we did before, I'm going to draw my lines down where my plus signs are. Okay. Now we need to multiply. So if I think about what all this represents, this means that I have 20 rows, and then in each row there's 40, because there's a 40 across the top. So this represents 20 times 40. Okay, let's fill in all of our boxes first, and then you could multiply. Then I'm going to say, well, this side right here is still 20, represents 20 rows of 7. So I'm going to write 20 rows of 7. Down here in this box, this represents that I have 9 rows. So this time I have 9 rows of, well, how many are in each row? 40. 9 rows of 40. And then the last one I have 9 rows still. And then this time in each row, there's 7. 9 times 7. Okay, so these are the things that I want you to do when we pause the video. I want you to come up with the product for each one of these squares, and then add the products together to get the final answer or the final product. So I'm going to ask that you please pause the video now so that you can do this. Okay, excellent. So you should have already solved this problem. So 20 times 40, we have 2 times 4 is 8. Write my 2 zeros because there's 2 zeros. 2 times 7, because I'm doing 20 times 7 is 14. And then I have 1 0, so I'm going to add it. 9 times 40, I'm going to do 9 times 4, which is 36 plus 1 0. And then I have 9 times 7, which is 63. So then you should have added up all of these numbers. Hopefully you were careful to line them up properly. Okay, so I'm going to add these numbers. I get 3, 6 and 6 is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Write my 6, carry my 1, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 1,363. If you got this, please clap your hands 2 times. Man, that was a whole lot of claps. I'm so excited that you did that so well. So now I'm going to give you an opportunity. I want you to practice this last problem all by yourself, okay? Do the whole thing. Figure out what 63 times 45 is using the area model. And then you can turn the video back on and we can check your answer. Okay, excellent. So this is what you should have. We would have this broken down into 60 plus 3. This was broken down into 40 plus 5 because it represents 45. So now I'm going to break down each section. So I have 60 rows of 40, 60 rows of 5, 3 rows of 40, and 3 rows of 5. I figure out what all of my products are now. So here in this box, I would have 6 times 4, which is 24. Write my 2 zeros because there's 2 zeros right there. Then over here, I do 6 times 5, which is 30. I'm going to write my extra 0. Make it 300. Because if I had just written 30 right there, 60 times 5 can't be 30. That doesn't make sense. It has to be larger. Over here, I'm going to do 3 times 40. So 3 times 4 is 12. Write 1 0. And then I've got 3 times 5, which is 15. So you should have come over here to the side and added up all of your numbers. Make sure that you lined them up, because if you don't line them up, then you're going to get the incorrect answers. So I've got 5, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 2. 2,835. If you got this correct, I want you to turn and give your neighbor a high five. Way to go. Please take a minute, and I want you to make some observations about the things that we did. Look at the numbers that we multiplied together. Look at the answers that we got. How large they were. How small they were. Look at the way that we broke things down. I want you to make some observations about these sections. Okay, I'm going to suggest that you pause the video while you make these observations and then take a minute to share these observations with your people in your group after everyone has done this, okay? And then we're going to come back together and I'm going to tell you the things that I really want to make sure that you observed about these problems. So go ahead and please pause the video now. Okay, so these are the observations that I really wanted you to notice. Hopefully you saw a bunch of things with your partner and with the people at your group. So the first observation that I want to make sure that we make is that two numbers are multiplied by the same number. So that's a lot of words. Let me show you what I mean. So if you look here, 60 and 3 are both multiplied by 40. Over here, 60 and 3 are both multiplied by 5. Okay, if you look at it a different way, 3 is multiplied by 40 and 3 is multiplied by 5. Same thing up here. 60 is multiplied by 40 and it's multiplied by 5. So two numbers are always multiplied by the same number. Okay? They all share each other. Okay? The other thing that I really want to make sure that you notice, okay, is that 60 plus 3 equals 63. Now, I know that you know that, okay? But if you were to break this down, okay, and you put 60, let's say you put 60 over here, but you put 3 over here, well, 40 plus 3 is not going to get you to 63. So it's important that you keep the numbers that go together on the same side. So I'm going to write 60 plus 3 equals 63. Numbers must add together on the same side. So when you break them down, they have to add together to be the same thing. So if you did not make these observations, or if maybe you put it in different words, that's okay. But if you did not make these observations, make sure that you make these observations right now and write them down. Okay, great job today, friends. Your substitute teacher will share with you any additional information or work that we have for today. I love you guys and I miss you so much. Have a great day.